Check 1 2, check 1 2. Hey, welcome back to another video. This one is going to be about setting healthy boundaries with toxic people, or I guess kind of like testing people. And this was a question that, if I can hit the right button, that came from a comment on a video, and it was really simple. It was, what are the top healthy boundaries that one should have to weed out toxic people from their lives? And then he went on to say, I wonder how rich, successful people do it in their own lives without complete isolation. And I'm going to hit this. I'm going to go over a few things that I think are really important on this. And it's kind of interesting because you can use this information to weed out the toxic people in your life. And then this is also very similar information that people use when they're trying to, make their life better, become the best version of themselves, that type of thing. The number one thing on this is you have to respect yourself, meaning that you have to do what's right for you. I think oftentimes we are in situations and we make decisions that we don't really feel good about. We make them as a compromise, and what we're doing is we're actually compromising our own boundaries, our own values, and we're setting ourselves up for significant failure. So it's critically important that you understand yourself, you get yourself grounded, and that you really know the direction that you're trying to go. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a specific goal in mind. It could just be that, I want my life to be better. I want to have different experiences. I want to feel good about myself and grow emotionally, right? I mean, something arbitrary, that's not arbitrary, but I mean, as opposed to, I want a YouTube channel with 100,000 people, something like that, right? I mean, there's different goals. And I think what happens is as you achieve certain goals, then you progress and you modify those to better align with where you're going. The next part about this, and all of this feeds in on each other, is do not allow anyone to shame or guilt you into doing anything that you don't want to do. Now, the tough part about this is I think a lot of us, probably most of us, let me know in the comments below if you agree with this comment, that a lot of us grow up being guided by shame and guilt. Making decisions because we're afraid of what someone else will think, or because we're guilty that if we don't do a certain thing, somebody won't like us, our family won't respect us, they'll look down on you. And then you tend to compromise, kind of going back to what I was talking about a moment ago, you compromise yourself to get the approval of people that ultimately, and we'll get onto this later in this list of things, that ultimately you probably don't even need in your life. If we go back to the comment, is weeding out toxic people. It was what the question was how, what are the healthy boundaries that one should have to weed out toxic people from their lives? And I think, all of these feed in on each other. Now, the next part about this, and this is a big one, and this is also a good test to test if people are in fact toxic, and it's learning to say no. Now, I'm not saying that you have to say no in an asinine way or jerky way or anything like that, but you need to, going back up to the top other things, if there's a decision that's coming up and it doesn't feel right to you and you don't want to do it, or you feel like someone is shaming or guilting you into it, you can say no. And it could be something simple. It could be something as in like somebody, it's like, hey, let's this weekend let's go to whatever. Let's go to the rock show. whatever. I meant rock show as in like mineral show, right? And let's say you don't want to do it. Just say, no, that's okay. I don't really want to go. And the good part about this is and you do it in a nice way, right? Just like, oh no, hey, I appreciate that, but no, I don't want to do it. Or if someone's like, hey, can you give me a ride and or do something for them, and you have something else planned. Say, oh, I'd really like to, but all right, no, you don't have to say that. You just say, oh, I can't. I have another plan. The thing is that this can also help you test the person that you're dealing with. And I know testing people seems semi-manipulative, but when you're trying to weed out toxic people in your life, it's important to know, do you guys have mutual healthy boundaries? And what you will more than likely experience, and probably have experienced in the past, is that if you say no to a toxic person, they make you pay for it. It may not be right then, so you have to kind of watch, because if the person is, oh, okay, yeah, no problem, not a problem. And you can be like, oh, okay, great. And then later, they'll load it over you, they'll bring it up, they'll make you pay in some other way, they'll put you down, something like that. Watch for that type of stuff. Ultimately, it kind of goes back to, respecting yourself and knowing what's right for you. And if you're around people who are not respecting the boundaries that you're setting up, they're not supportive, then that's a huge red flag that they probably do not deserve to be in your life. And what happens with this, as you work through this and you start realizing, hey, some of these people in my life are toxic. And I want to pause for a moment and just have a little caveat on this. Because whenever you've grown up and you've been around toxic people for the majority of your life, let's say your family of origin was full of toxic people, your parents, your siblings, everyone that you've been around is toxic. And what happens is, especially if your family of origin is toxic, we have a tendency to surround ourselves with the same type of people. So what can happen is as you're building these boundaries, you can be like, oh my God, everyone is a piece of crap. Everybody is toxic. There's no good people in the world. Well, that's not true. You got to caveat it and remember that more than likely, you've spent a good portion of your life surrounding yourself with toxic people. You've been reinforcing your internal dialogue, your internal voice on how you're not worthy of being treated better. And we all tend to surround ourselves with people like that, which this rolls into the big one, the big thing. And this is surrounding yourself with high quality people. Now, I looked this term up, or not term, but I looked this phrase up because I've heard it a lot. And it's, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it says it's attributed to the motivational speaker, Jim Rohn. And this is incredibly important and true, right? If you are surrounding yourself with toxic people, you are going to be living in that toxic environment. Where conversely, if you start surrounding yourself with higher quality people, people who are doing the things that you want to do, or are at an emotional state that you want to be in, it'll start to rise you up. So it's really important to think about that, because those 5 people that we hang around with, our core group of friends, are really going to mold what we're going to be like, what we're going to do in a lot of cases, and the direction that you're going to grow. Now, initially, right, when you're working through this, it's very simple. You're purging the toxic people, and you're just having, emotionally healthy people, right? And then as you progress, you start to decide, well, where do you want to go? I mean, if it's a professional, I mean, if you're like, okay, I've got my foundation good. I've rebuilt my core group. I'm surrounding myself with healthy, emotionally healthy people that are supportive. Then you can look at and say, okay, well, what do you want to do next? You know, is there a goal that you want to achieve? Do you want to progress professionally? So then you find a mentor. A lot of professional companies, even where I work, they have what do you call formalized mentor type programs to help the younger people grow and learn more skills and progress professionally. But it's across the board. If you want to learn, if you want to get play an instrument, surrounding yourself with that, like videography, like some of the stuff I'm doing, you find the people who are helping you grow to do the same thing. And I think that's really the key. It's the good part about all of this, and I know oftentimes, especially if you're in the early parts of this, it doesn't feel like there's anything good, right? This just feels like a painful nightmare. It's affecting your emotional health, your physical health, your financial, everything. And it permeates your entire life. The interesting thing I find about this is that it gave me an opportunity once I was able to get through the really dark days, and the dark days were pretty damn dark. I mean, I'm not discounting how hard this really is, but once you progress past this and you basically take your life back, you can really set yourself up on a trajectory of improving your life, improving your experiences, and purging toxic people from you. I think this is even true if you've been a target of parental alienation, if your relationship with your kids has been damaged. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're stuck in that quagmire of muck. The caveat on that is we all have a choice on ourselves. We can choose to remain angry and trapped in that mode. I've seen it in my own family with people that have spent decades, and I mean decades, stuck being angry and PO'd at the experience they've experienced. And I mean, on one part of this, every one of us has a right to be angry. Every one of us has a right to want justice, want accountability, to want, even revenge in some ways. But I'm here to tell you, nothing good comes from that. If you stay stuck in that mode, you're hurting yourself, and effectively you're letting the other person win. Now, it takes time to work through that. It took me a little over 3 years to really get that out of my system. It probably even took a little longer than that. Because I really started actively working at making progress, but it still was an iterative process to ultimately achieve the goals, at least emotionally, that I was trying to do. So I just want to put that part out there, because some of the concepts that I'm talking about in this video are, for lack of a better word, advanced. It's farther in the process. And as a result of that, sometimes it can feel incredibly complicated to think that you can even get past all of this. But the thing is that you can. And the payoff on the other side is really, it's pretty damn amazing. Again, is my life the way I thought it was going to be? No. It's gone down a different path. And to be honest, in a lot of ways, I'm grateful for what's happened, even though it nearly killed me, because, I've learned so much. I've grown emotionally so much. And I have an appreciation for, appreciation is not the right word. I have a different perspective on what's important. And that's really what's amazing through all of this, is that as you come to the other side of it, it's like your your view on what is really, really important changes. So on that, I would love to hear what you have to think down in the comments below. If you are new to this channel, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. And if you want to support what we do here or what I do here, become a channel member. You could do that down below. And I will chat with you on the next video. Take care.